Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast, where I teach educated, successful couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships so that you can stop compromising and start feeling fully alive in your relationship. I'm Alexandra Stockwell, aka the Intimacy Doctor. I'm a physician, a relationship and intimacy coach, and I'm an intimate marriage expert. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing marriage. I've shown hundreds of couples how to do so as well. So if you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how. Now, let's dive in. Happy New Year. This is Alexandra, and I'm so glad you're here for the first episode of the Intimate Marriage Podcast in 2023. If this is the first time you're listening, a very warm welcome to you. And if you've been listening to all of the episodes or many of the episodes, I welcome you back and I'm excited to start 2023 together with you. I'm going to be making a few changes to the Intimate Marriage Podcast in this coming year. And one of the changes is that I'm going to start with either a testimonial that I've received from my coaching or one of the reviews of the podcast or of my book, because I've come to understand that you respond to uncompromising intimacy. It's such a beautiful concept to think about being fully who you are in your relationship, but we need more examples of this, more real people who've taken these concepts and applied them in their own lives. And of course, I share a lot about my own marriage on the podcast and tell you about my clients and some of their stories. But I also want to just introduce you to people who respond. So you know that there are so many different ways to take the concepts that I teach and the stories that I tell and integrate them into your own life and your own relationship in a way that really is meaningful for you. So I'm going to start with a review of my book called Uncompromising Intimacy. It's available on Amazon and Audible, and this review was left in October of 2022 by Victor on Amazon. Alexandra has the most effective relationship wisdom you have ever heard. She has changed my life multiple times. Her concepts will up-level your relationships. Victor, this warms my heart so much, particularly that you call it the most effective relationship wisdom, because theories are fantastic, research and data is amazing, but they really don't matter unless we can translate it into ways that you can really implement, integrate, enhance, and up-level your own relationship. So I just loved reading this from Victor and hope that as you keep listening, the relationship wisdom I share is very effective for you as well. Now, today is a very special day for me because this podcast is dropping in early January 2023, but that's not when I'm recording it. I'm actually recording it the day that I did my first virtual daytime guided date, namely my workshop called Uncompromising Intimacy 101. This is a workshop that I created and delivered today for the first time, and I look forward to offering it many times in 2023. And I hope you and your partner will join me, because today it was just totally incredible. It was a blend of me teaching, the couples conversing with one another, and also some wonderful times where each couple went on mute and just interacted with themselves. And so it really was a guided date with playful, flirtatious, meaningful energy, as well as depth and inspiration, education, and learning from what you share and what you hear from other couples. It really was just the most magnificent experience, and I'll be talking more about it in upcoming episodes, but I want to just share one thing. There was one man, part of a couple, who was a participant in the workshop, and he and his partner go to counseling with a therapist every week. He does not look forward to it, but they believe it's important for their relationship, so they do it. And he said, this was so much better. He loved the lightness and the pleasure and the appreciation and the connectedness. And instead of getting stuck in the things that aren't working in this workshop, every relationship expanded and opened through focusing on the things that are delightful, which is why instead of calling it, going into the dark shadows and facing your fears, no, this is a guided daytime date. The kind of conversations you might well have on a date if you gave it a little attention and prepared ahead of time. But I give it the attention and prepare ahead of time and just guide you through it. And it really was just so enriching and magnificent. And again, I wanted to just share this energy of being in a workshop with couples who all have good, beautiful, strong relationships, and they want to expand them and deepen and be more connected. And also you can hear in my voice how much I loved facilitating this and witnessing more relationships include more wholeness and juiciness. So again, I don't actually have the next workshop scheduled as I'm recording this, but by the time you're listening, it absolutely has already been scheduled. So just go to the show notes, click on the link, go ahead and enroll you and your partner, and I look forward to seeing you there. Now, as I transition into the topic that I really wanted to discuss with you, I want to just acknowledge that the beginning of the new year is a time when people set goals, New Year's intentions, they make a list of desires, pick a word for the year. All of this energy around desires and choosing what you want and putting things in place to make them happen. Now, we do know that within a pretty short amount of time, a lot of that falls away, but that's not really the part that I want to emphasize. I want to talk about your relationship to your desires and point out that in the context of relationship, in the context of somebody else asking you, what do you want? There are two very different flavors, and it's extremely helpful to recognize when it makes sense to be in one of those flavors and when it makes sense to be in the other. Let me be more specific. So when it's a matter of choosing, where you're going to go for dinner, or what kind of activity the family's going to do for the weekend, or which movie you want to watch, or any number of decisions that are made in the course of your life with your spouse, it would be expected that your spouse is going to say to you, well, what do you want? And when that happens, when it really is a question of what do you want, it makes sense to take a breath, slow down, and give yourself the spaciousness to go inside and discover what you want. Now, when it comes to choosing a restaurant, maybe you want to look at the menu at the various places being considered. But when it comes to maybe something about sensuality, or maybe something even about parenting, and it's a question of, well, what do you want? Could be any kind of topic. Then you want to maybe journal a little bit, or think about it, or at least give yourself enough time to go inside and discover your own answer. And you may find that you're a little nervous about what you find. Maybe you haven't said what you want because you're concerned your spouse isn't going to be happy, or you're not in approval, or who knows what it is. But either way, you want to take the time and really discover what you desire, because there's no way that you're going to experience it if you don't actually take the time to identify it and then share that with your partner. On the other hand, there's another kind of what do you want which arises, and in that scenario, it's not about going inside and discovering what you want. It's actually a very indirect request for leadership. In other words, can you just tell us what you want is a form of saying, we have decision fatigue. We don't want to be in this ambivalence, in this limbo. Could you please exert some leadership, give us some direction so that we know what's happening next? It's really a request for you to provide guidance and clarity and leadership. And this phenomenon obviously happens no matter the gender, no matter what your relationship constellation is. This can happen with anyone, especially when you are both ambitious, driven, competent people making all kinds of decisions with all kinds of responsibility for other people throughout the day. It is such a relief when your partner makes some decisions so that you can turn that part of you off and essentially feel taken care of because you don't have to decide anymore. So in both cases, the question may sound very similar. What do you want? Or what do you want to do? You know, there are different ways. This isn't a script. There are different ways that this may arise in your relationship. And I invite you to notice when the request is just to give an answer so that people know how to move forward, and when the request is to really consider what is true for you. I'd love to know how this lands for you, if this feels resonant, if now that I've said so, you see how these two things come into play, because they can so easily get confused, but really one is a question about you, and the other, really the emphasis is on the person asking, can you please just take care of us? Can you please just decide so we can have some clarity here? And many times people answer both the same, and that just leads to misunderstanding and resentment and disappointment. But if you can get really clear, not just about when your spouse is asking for one or the other, but when you would like to answer with one or the other of these kinds of flavors, I think you're going to find yourself a lot more gratified and feeling like you get what you want a lot more frequently, because you'll be clear when it's about what you want and when it's about leadership in your relationship and family. So again, I'd really love to hear how this lands for you, what it inspires, what your experience is. So you can message me on Instagram or LinkedIn, or go to my website, alexandrastockwell.com, and fill out the contact form and let me know your thoughts. And let me remind you again to check the show notes and go ahead and enroll in my next Uncompromising Intimacy 101 workshop, because you're going to love it. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, and please leave a rating and a review. And if you're ready to deepen your relationship and create a truly intimate, delicious, and vibrant marriage, head over to the Work With Me page at alexandrastockwell.com and choose the program that's right for you.